Hey guys, you can see now we're on the back side of the rig here. Got the engine uncovered, got the intake put on this morning. Pretty straightforward. And then what we're going to do, what I'm looking to do is I've kind of taken some measurements. I'm going to get this radiator put up in place, and I'm going to leave this side open. I'm going to offset the battery over here to the passenger side for the time being. So the radiator is going to mount driver's side heavy back here, and then I'll tell you what, I about got it figured out where it goes, but I got to get a piece of angle iron or something. I'm going to build a bracket and hook these tabs in. It'd be nice to get somebody down here. I'll see if I can get someone down here, give me a hand, get this measurement in or something. Oh, hold on. Q!
Hey, Andy.
Q, man, I can use a hand getting a measurement.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, you're right on time. Thanks, man.
As usual.
As usual. They let you out today? You're off work?
Yep.
Cool, man. So once we get the height set, we're going to probably be somewhere around here for them upper tabs. So we're just going to measure this to the widest point. So I'll measure that for now, and then we'll have to adjust the bar. So we're just going to clamp it on to get a look and see how this is going to work. If you could, measure that wide part of that bend right there. Just go to the edge of the tube, and I'll take a little bit off. You get the edge?
Yep.
All right. So we're reading about 49 3/4 roughly. I'll probably just cut it to roughly 49. That'll probably work. And I've got some lighter weight angle iron over here. But let's go ahead and take a look at this and see how it fits again. And we'll cheat that together. So make sure we can get to that filler neck. Come in just a little bit. All right. That should be, can I lean forward with this thing? There we go. All right, so if you see here at the bottom of this radiator, it's got the two tabs. I guess on the next shade it just drops in through some bushings, I don't know. But anyway, I'm gonna make some poly mounts. We'll recess that through, pin it at the bottom. And then up here on the top, there's these two mounting tabs. And so what we're going to do is run that angle iron across there, and we'll set our height with that. Take about an inch off to drop that through, and then I'll tack that angle iron in, and we'll put the holes in it, and see how that's going to work for a mount. And the battery should go right here over the hole for the old filler neck. The old gas filler is probably going to go right through here, or it may go through the body, and we're kicking around doing a pop out, like a hinge panel with a thumb screw. So, might do that to cover the gas cap. I don't know. We'll see how that goes when we get to the aluminum work. Alright guys, have a good day. We'll check back in. Hey guys, I've been busy since I was on here a few minutes ago. But anyway, we just kind of got the battery mocked up. I use these clamp over terminals. They're pretty nice. And probably the best thing about them is once you get all the cable in there, it's virtually impossible to ground out your battery. Keeps everything nice and covered. As you can see here, I ran this bar across. I used rubber isolating washers on my mount tabs. I drilled these holes in the bed for the pegs, and I cut down some rubber mounts I had and made some isolators on there. See over here, we're gonna be able to get the radiator cap off, no problem. If it was even on. It's tight. Anyway, there we go. It's all mounted in, and she's rocking the whole rig. I don't think she's going anywhere. It's pretty solid mount. So anyway, that leaves the whole back end open for tool bags, coolers, whatnot. Thought about moving the battery down to get the weight lower in the rig, and still kicking that around. If I do, it'll have to go right in here, but with these battery mounts I use, it really wouldn't be a big deal to move that down. So I may consider that. Anyway guys, I'd like to say it went really easy, but like everything in life, I had to fight it a little bit. And as you can see here, the floor pan I was mounting it to is not level, but I do have clearance. And if I see that clearance change much, you know, rattle around, vibrating, I'll put a piece of silicone hose down over that base, make sure it doesn't rub metal on metal. Anyway, guys, that's where we're at. Thank you. All right, guys, we got the intake. Well, it ain't much of an intake. We got the air filter on and the mass airflow sensor back hooked up. We got most of the engine wired in now. I got some vacuum lines to run. Got to sort out a few vents, figure out what all this wiring is. There's a lot of extra wiring on here I'm going to have to go through. But I got to looking at our power distribution, and we got these two terminals, and that's it. So we got our ground lug into here, and then our hot lug, okay? So if you look at this hot lug, we got some good 3/0 wire run back through the body. It's actually got a grommet, doesn't look terrible. Haven't traced it all, but it runs back here. We got a good 3/0. But then at some point we moved the battery to the back, and we didn't buy any more 3/0 or reconnect it. We put some 4-gauge wire on there. So the winch load, everything on this vehicle was going through this 4-gauge wire. And there's our ground for the battery, and it is securely fastened to the tub with 3 screws. So our entire chassis ground is through the body. So not really how I like to do things. I picked up some more 3-gauge ground cable today, or 3-gauge, 3/0, and gonna run that back up there to that terminal, ground that out. I'll run some ground straps between stuff, and we're probably gonna take and clean this cable up, hook our positive back in there, and then I guess I'm gonna go around and make sure there's no wires touching anything, put a bunch of tape on stuff, and put power to the vehicle and see what we got. I did pick up a couple little fuse blocks today, and one of these little multi-ground strips. I like using stuff like that, keep all my grounds back to a common point. But anyway, that's where I'm at. We'll see where this goes. I think I have all my fittings now to get the transmission cooler plumbed in. I'm going to do that, top off the transmission. We put oil in the engine. Should be ready to turn it over once I get the transmission plumbed in and get it full. And we'll see if she'll start. And then I'll finish running the coolant lines and probably just water test it to begin with. And we'll see how it goes. Thank you. Quick update. They did use a grade 8 bolt, so I guess that's better. Anyway, in all serious, we'll get this wired in a little bit better here. And just kind of a reminder, guys, whenever you pick up a project, kind of look over everything. You don't really want to go melting your cables out first time you're winching or something. But anyway, thank you. All right, guys, so I routed a new ground cable, rerouted the hot cable. That's just temporary. I don't even know what battery I'm going to be running. This is just one I'm trying out. So anyway, routed it up here. Got everything tied in better. And I think I've got most of the wiring. I know I've got a couple vacuum lines. I guess kind of weird kick down cable looking thing for the transmission, but I see nowhere to attach it. And I gotta do some homework on that. Got to do some work on the plug for the alternator and a few other things. But when I turn this switch, let's see here. Oh, look. The Cyclops backup light works. And then, oh, look at that. I got a light zip tied to my winch that comes on. That'll be handy. But anyway, actually, I do have tail lights that come on, and I have one brake light. But, listen. It actually does turn over, and the winch works. So, as you can see, I was able to pull the winch in. So anyway, we're making progress. A few things are working, a few things still aren't. I have no idea what all dash functions I'm going to have when I'm done or anything like that. But look, guys, probably not going to do a whole lot more tonight. If I do anything, I'm going to route some transmission lines. And I got some homework to do on looking up and finding some wiring diagrams. I'm sure there's guys I know that could tell me exactly what I need to wire in, what doesn't matter. But anyway, we'll get to that and see where she ends up. But like I said, it's close from what it was. And overall, I am pretty happy with how the radiator mount came out. It is way sturdier than I thought it was going to be. So anyway, that's going to be good. It should be a good bit of storage room back here for ZEP. And we got a new fuel filler line. So I will be able to get gas in it. There's no gas in it right now. I don't even know if the fuel pump works, to be honest. I can't hear it when I turn the key on. So it's hard to say. But anyway, the tack light's up. So, you know, at least we know the tack light works. So that's handy. Anyway, guys, I appreciate you hanging out. And we'll see how far we get. Thank you. Got a light bar and rock light zip tied in place. When I'm pointing up, we'll figure that out. And a backup light. This thing's lit up like nobody's business. That backup light looks like it aims a little high. Probably come in handy if you're backing downhill. Anyway, we'll adjust that a little bit maybe. But yeah, more and more stuff's working. So, no, I said I was going to leave it alone, but I have a hard time doing that. So anyway, we're steady making ground, I guess. No fire, no smoke. I probably will disconnect the battery before I leave the shop for the night. I don't have full trust in it yet. But, yeah, it's better. Thank you. Hey guys, just kind of showing you what we're dealing with here. It's been above 50 for like 2 days now, and driveway's starting to thaw, but the big old girl ain't coming out yet. So we're still kind of missed our weekend out with Steve and them down in Kentucky. But I got a lot of work done here, so I reckon it's all right. Anyway, it's Saturday afternoon. Check my camera here. And still working on this thing. So, where we left yesterday, the radiator was mounted solid. Batteries ratchet strapped for now until I decide which battery we're going with. Once I determine which battery, I will do a real mount. Okay, this is not for trails or anything like that right now. I'm just checking components. We got quite a bit more electrical work to do, but not as much as I'd originally feared, so that's kind of nice. But this morning I've been down here working. Let me pop this loose. Hold on, guys. We're going to walk over here. I do have the transmission cooler plumbed now, so I can go ahead and add transmission juice. Routed these down. Everything's secured off to the post. I wrapped any rub points with silicone hose I cut up, and we route it down and under, and it crosses between the bell housing and the oil pan of the transmission and secures off on the other side. So we're up out of the way of the drive shafts. We're out of the way of the exhaust, anything like that. I don't foresee there being a problem. I double hose clamped the fittings here at the back to make sure we didn't have, well, I just don't want transmission fluid leaking back here, a line letting go. But I did use all brand new line. I don't really foresee that being a problem. A lot of people are worried about line failure with the rear mounted setup, but hoses are a wear item. If you take care of them, you'll get your service life out of them. I mean, there are instances where clamps let go and whatnot, but it's not a concern I have on day-to-day trails or even running down the road in my truck. And I mean, those hose clamps on the truck, it's a 2010, so they've been on there for 12 years. I've never had one of them fail. So I get it's different if it blows on your back, but I think maybe when I get done here with some of the leftover aluminum, I may build like a like a little cowl that comes up a little bit over each side, and that way if I did have a failure, it would blow it back into the back of the rig and not forward. So maybe that's a good compromise. But man, it's looking pretty good, looking pretty solid on this. I'm going to start adding some fluids. I got to top off the transmission. Transfer case needs filled, and I'm going to check the differentials. If I'll probably go ahead and just drain and refill them. I got plenty of gear oil. But so this is just an Amazon radiator, nothing fancy. Just a little twin core XJ model. And I like the packaging, is why I went with it. It looks pretty good. The only thing I failed to do, I forgot to get a secondary fill port for up by the engine. So I may have trouble burping all the air out. So that may be a trial and error type thing. I'm hoping I can work most of it out by loosening the hose at the thermostat housing. That's my goal. We'll see how that actually pans out. But as of right now, that's the biggest drawback I see with how I set this up. The only other thing is I did put the petcock in back here. I probably should have just put a drain valve I could hook a hose to. Thought about doing that. But in all honesty, this is not the lowest point in the system, so I'll probably just separate a hose up underneath the engine. And that's probably how I'm going to drain this out when I need to drain it out. Hey, I'll find out real quick because we're going to water check it first before we go on to coolant. But if you do order one of these radiators, they only come with one of these fittings, and this one up here is an A&N style. And I didn't buy provisions to do A&N lines. I don't have provisions to do A&N lines on my transmission. So I was searching, and it turns out that an M16 1.5 thread GM fuel line repair kit is the bushing you need. And I had to modify the end of the line a little bit. I put an O-ring in there to make sure it's seated good and flat. I think we're going to work. I'm not really worried about it. But anyway, in the big rig, I did do A&N fittings, but I had provisions to do so. And this transmission, I didn't see a good way to get in there and remove those lines, and I never took the transmission out of the rig. So I'm going to roll the dice on this because I just didn't feel it was worth all the effort of pulling the transmission just to figure out how to adapt those fittings over. If it can even be done, I'm not sure. So, ignorance on my part. I'm not real familiar with this transmission. I'm not super excited about it. It's a GM 3-speed. It's probably going to be okay, but full disclosure, probably the reason the radiator's in the back is I'm leaving room in case this doesn't pan out on the drivetrain and I do a motor swap. And if we do that, we'll put something different in there, engine and transmission. So that's where we're at, guys. I'm going to keep plugging away and try to get some more fluids in it. Thank you. All right, guys. Wrapping it up for the night. We got a New Year's Eve party to head out to here in a bit, and it's raining, so I'm not taking any of the off-road rigs. I didn't get this one running yet. I got transmission cooler plumbed. Transmission's full of fluid. I got the finish up the last. I got the steering cooler mounted up here behind the grill. The grill's just sitting here still. I haven't completely decided where we're gonna mount it. I did cut the ends off today. We're not gonna be able to use that for the headlights in there. They fit too tight to the contours of these rear support bars. So no big deal. I did mount spare Flexolite fan. Got a lot of fans. Mounted it behind the grill here. Figured it'll help circulate some air into the engine bay, and needed some way to keep the steering cool. So it's kind of where I'm at. Like I said, not as productive as I wanted to be today, but not bad. I've got all my hose and the tube and everything to get the coolant ran, but that's really the only fluid I have left to get routed. And I do have to install a gas filler neck back out through the body. It was inside the cab, and we have a full soft top for it. So eventually we plan to close this in a little bit. So needed to move that. I bought a chunk of fuel filler hose. It should work just fine. It's plenty long, and get that done. And I think she's actually gonna run. I got sidetracked a little bit trying to figure out this front e-locker. I've never messed with one. It's out of a newer Toyota, and I'm hoping it's just a ground issue or something, because if not, I gotta figure out where the wires go. I think I know which switch it is, but nothing's labeled inside of here. So anyway, we'll get that sorted out. It'll work one way or another. But anyway, guys, have a great new year. Be safe tonight. Look forward to seeing what the next year brings. Thank y'all. Have a good evening.